Okay, I think we're live. First of all, I want to just say thank you. I want to say peace. I want to say assalamu alaikum. And I want to welcome everyone to the live premiere of the video, but we want to go live just to give the opportunity to share some thoughts on the project. And so we're live on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, and the video will be premiering in about 29 minutes. So as soon as it goes live, we're going to cut over to the video. I'll be posting it on these platforms. It'll be live on YouTube, and then we'll be posting it live on Instagram and Facebook. But I want to just also open up the floor. So as you're listening, if you have any questions, you're welcome to put it in the chat, and I'll try to answer your question as we go along. But I want to just take the opportunity just to share a little bit about the project. It's, how it came about, the origins, and its meaning and whatnot. First of all, I want to just thank everyone who was a part of the project. And there are many people involved. I'm going to get to that in a minute. But sometime in January 2017, I received a revelation, if you want to call it that, a correspondence, a download. And in that message I received, I'm going to read it to you because I published it in the book, The Artist, that was published a year later. But in that download, it was like, in this message that I received, it goes like this. This is on page 74 of The Artist, which if you haven't purchased your copy of The Artist, you can do that at the website www.henristar.com. Henri spelled HENRISTAR.com. You can purchase the book, but this is from the book, which is the message I received in 2017. Is it possible to be in love with someone for 200 years, or 2,000 years, or 5,000 years, or since the beginning of time itself? This type of love experience is transcendental, as an electrical current surging from the source of life since the beginning of time, manifesting itself in and through different vessels at different points in time and space. Blessed is the one, the two beings who together make one, who find this reality. And I recorded that message, and as I record different messages that I receive, some I share, some I keep close to myself. And in 2018, when this book was published, The Artist, I included it in the book, in the chapter where I'm discussing the composer Ludwig van Beethoven. And, this is what they call Black History Month, but for me, Black History is every month. And I learned very in my career that the composer Ludwig van Beethoven was a Black man. And I mean, I've always loved Beethoven's music, no matter what his color was. But to learn that he was a Black man made a connection closer to my heart, because in his music, experiencing his music, and what I experienced as a Black man in classical music, it just helped his music connect with me a lot deeper, right? And I can talk about that at another time. But an important aspect of Beethoven's life, and Beethoven is the composer who lost his hearing in midlife, and he was able to still compose music even in deafness. And so, the miracle of that, the phenomenon of being able to write music. I'm a composer, I'm a performer, and I know the challenge, the intricate details it takes to actually put the pen on the paper on the staff and write notes, I mean, you're constantly, rearranging, rewriting what you've written, and you're changing notes around, and then you listen to it again and you say, that harmony there doesn't match. That note doesn't match. I want to, take this voice out and replace it with a different voice or instrument or whatnot. But to be able to do that and not hear what you've written, as in the case of Beethoven, but yet write, literal masterpiece works of music. I mean, that again is literally phenomenal what Beethoven was blessed to do by God. And in fact, the music that he wrote in deafness was so technically advanced that the musicians could barely play it. I mean, one piece, the Beethoven Bienaventurado, which stays in my repertoire, after it was premiered, it wasn't performed for another 50 years after its premiere. That's how technically, emotionally challenging that entire piece was. That's what Beethoven did in deafness, after being anointed by God, after losing his hearing. But an important part of Beethoven's life was a being that came into his life at the time, at his lowest point, which was when he was losing his hearing. And that person he only referred to as his immortal beloved. And the way that aspect of his life goes is that Beethoven, when he, found out, when he realized, accepted that his deafness could not be cured, he actually wanted to go and take his own life. And he went to a retreat that he went to often outside of in Germany called Heiligenstadt. Heiligenstadt means holy place. Is actually what the literal translation means. He went to take his own life, but while he was there, God intervened in his affairs. And he later wrote in what's called his Heiligenstadt Testament. You can actually go and read the words of his Heiligenstadt Testament. He said, I cannot die because there's so much in me that I have to give the world something. And it was after Heiligenstadt that the music that he began to write, again, was so profound and powerful. I mean, his third symphony, he wrote 9, he completed 9 symphonies. He started at 10th and didn't complete it. But his third symphony, just the difference, people that know orchestra music, the difference between his second and his third symphony, he's a completely different man at this point. But a woman comes into his life during this time period, and the music that he wrote, some pieces he dedicated to her, some pieces you can hear her presence in. But this music that he wrote as she was present, I, as a spiritual person, believe that she represented the catalyst, that she was the catalyst that God used to bring this dynamic genius through Beethoven. And again, as a spiritual person, I believe that that it is through the woman that she is the key. My mentor, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, who was my mentor and coach and teacher musically and spiritually, he said that she's the key to the kingdom of God. And so the immortal beloved woman in Beethoven's life, the music that he wrote after going deaf, after becoming connected with God and becoming and having her presence, that music, his Beethoven Violin Concerto, his trio in D major, the second movement of his Fourth Symphony, she was and is a force in his artistry. And she, I wrote in the book, if you have a chance to read the book, that, we may not ever find out who she was. The scholars have tried to pinpoint a name or pinpoint a person. Was it this person? Was it that person? And they really, have never been able, now 200 years later, have never been able to really pinpoint who she was. But I argue in the book, I present the premise in the book that we really don't need to know who she was, because she's now immortalized in his music. And every time you play his music, every time you experience his music, every time you listen to his music and you hear the passion and the anointing that is in his music, you're listening to her. And so I added that passage that was revealed to me. I put it in the book in this chapter. And in 2018, I published the book along with releasing my CD at the time titled The Angel One. And we hosted a CD release party and a book release party, and as I travel around to perform, I take the book with me. I teach from the book, and so fast forward, here we are now in 2021, actually approximately a year ago, and when I'm given a new piece to compose. I say given because the music comes to me or comes out of me or comes through me. However, I like to understand it. I was given this piece, and I started composing the piece. And when I compose a piece, for composers know that you start with a motif, and then as the piece begins to grow, I'm cultivating this piece. This piece is in a gestational phase, kind of. You think about, pregnancy and birth, and then finally, as the piece is just nearing delivery, the last component was the lyrics, and so before that, I wrote the piece, I recorded the piece, which is the song that we're going to hear tonight in the video. I recorded all the instruments. And so there's, of course, violin, there's string bass, there's guitar, there's piano, there's percussion instruments in the song. There's multiple layers of strings, all recorded in my studio, Krishna Studios. And then the last component was the lyrics. And, because the piece was so special, because the music was so special as I was composing it. I even composed it on a special tonal system. So music is tuned depending on what orchestra you're playing with. But most orchestras perform at a tonal system where the keynote A is tuned to 440 vibrations per second. And so this is A440. Sounds like that. And what that means is that sound wave, that wavelength vibrates like this, up and down, at 440 wave crests or vibrations per second. So I can't even wave my hand that fast, right? But that vibration is what creates the note A. Every note has a different vibration. The entire universe is created on vibration. So everything in the universe has its own note, its own vibration, its own sound, right? The first sound of life, when, again, just to go back to childbirth, the first sound of life that you hear is the sound of the baby's heartbeat. That's the first organ that's developed when the child is in utero, is the heartbeat. When you hear that heartbeat, life is there. And the same it is when one reaches the end of life. When there is no more heartbeat, then you know that the life has passed on. And so every note, every human being, every object in the universe vibrates. And so A440 is the standard tuning note for most ensembles around the world. Some ensembles tune to a higher note, A441. A442. I think there might be one or two orchestras out there tuning to A445, which is, that's extremely high. But the universe is tuned to a note called A432. And there's a lot of science in understanding the vibration A432. There's a lot of healing power in 432 vibrations or 432 hertz per second. There's a lot of power in that key. In most music prior to the early 1900s was tuned to 432. The music of Beethoven, Mozart, they all performed at A432. So I wanted this piece that I wrote in February of last year to 2021 to be, I tuned all the instruments to A432. So when I recorded the piece, when you're going to hear it in a few minutes, you're listening to a piece that is recorded at 432, because I think that helps to unlock the divine power that's in the music. And whenever I have an opportunity to perform at A42, if I travel around and if I'm performing with piano, I'll have them tune the piano to A432, and I'll retune my violin to A432. And it's just an entirely more enlightening experience like that. And so the song is at A432, and I had to find the right lyrics to go with this song. I have, and if you listen to some of the music in my catalog, all of my songs were inspired by divine sources. On the album the song that we're going to listen to tonight, the video Bienaventurado es el uno, the name of that album that the song is from is titled Awaken. And the opening track, Bienaventurado es el uno, is the 9th track, the final track. It's not really the final track. I'll talk about that in a second. But the first track is titled Light Upon Light, which is taken from the Holy Quran, and which is another very powerful ayat in the Quran, or verse, where it speaks of Allah's light being a light upon light. Well, that's the first track of the album, Awaken. The 9th track is this song that we're going to listen to in the next few minutes, Bienaventurado es el uno. And then there's actually a bonus track that you can listen to, which is inspired by the words of my mentor, Mr. Louis Farrakhan, which is entitled Behind the Stars. But I had to find the lyrics for such a special song. And around that time, this is a year ago, I always read through the book before I go out to teach or perform, and I can read through the book so I can take points from the book. And that's when I reread that passage on page 74. Is it possible to be in love with someone for 200 years? And when I read that passage, I knew that was the passage that I'm going to use for this song. And so, but then something in me knew that I didn't want to just sing it in English, because the song has a Mexican, Spanish, Latin, Middle Eastern, just original people feel to it. And so I said, I'm going to sing this song in Spanish. And I didn't want to try to translate it myself, because my Spanish itself is, I'm on the learning curve, but trying to translate it, and especially a passage like this, which is a very divine passage, I said, I really want to go to a specialist to help me translate this passage. And so I reached out to Dr. Margarita Vargas at University of Buffalo, and I asked if she would help me translate this passage. And I let her know that I didn't want to translate it just into your 2021 conventional Spanish that might be spoken in Puerto Rico or Mexico or whatnot, or Spain. I asked if she could translate it into the dialect that may have been spoken by, my or our great grandparents, from the 1930s. That was the dialect that I wanted to use for this particular song. And so I sent her the lyrics, the passage. She translated, sent it back to me. And that was when I recorded the final piece component of the song. And I published the song in February 2021, a year ago. And the song is on all the streaming platforms, on Apple Music, iTunes, Spotify, all YouTube, all of them, the song. But the song stayed with me. There's a certain kind of, presence in the song that traveled with me. And around September, I got the inspiration that I wanted to actually film a music video to accompany the song. And I had an idea in mind. As I listened to the song, the idea began to formulate in my mind of what would take place in this song and how I wanted it to play out that would serve both the lyrics, the style of music, and my own spiritual expression. And the first person that I reached out to was a colleague of mine, a colleague, a former classmate. And I'm using past tense because she actually passed away about a month ago. And that was my former classmate, Tilke Hill, who we, as I mentioned, grew up together in high school. We were debate team partners, co-captains of the debate team of the Buffalo Academy for Visual and Performing Arts. And after high school, I went the path on my path, and she went on her path. But we reconnected about 5 years ago when she came to join me and my team, my arts team at the school, one of the schools where I teach at, the Arthur O. Eve School of Distinction, Home of the Arts. We were putting on a production, a musical production, and the director of that production stepped out abruptly, and we needed someone to come on board to help us complete the project. And Tilke Hill, who was and is an outstanding film director in her own right, actress, writer, um, I mean, just an outstanding artist in the theater arts. She came to the school and helped us complete the project. And that was when we kind of reconnected. And, you know, we, along with talking about the arts, we talked about many spiritual things. And I was very impressed with her understanding of the kind of concepts that were present in the song and in Beethoven's Immortal Beloved and other spiritual realms that deal with the idea of two beings, the male, the masculine and feminine energies, and how they come together and how they represent God, and how God is alive in both the masculine and feminine energies. And so understanding, knowing that she understood that, I reached out to her first to help me get an idea of how to bring this project together. And of course, she gave me some advice, some suggestions on the technical aspects, because my mind is like, I want to do this and this and this. And she's like, well, you gotta, you know, what's your budget, right? What's, who's on your team? Do you have your components together? And after, I took her advice and I reached out to um, Brother Corey Green of the Black Rose Production House. And I had been in his studio and on his show before in the past, several years ago. He has a show titled How I Came Up. And I was on his show, this is in 2018, I was on his show talking about my journey. And his professional work in film, arts, production is phenomenal. I mean, just a phenomenal team that he has, a phenomenal work. And I knew that he was well equipped to take the idea out of my mind and bring it into the reality that you're about to see. And so we talked, and he told us at the concert last couple of weeks ago that he normally doesn't do music videos, but I let him know I didn't want this to be a rap video. I wanted this to be a spiritual expression. I wanted this to be a work of art that would last, that would go on into the future. And he took the project on and, helped bring it, literally help bring it out of my mind into this, what you're about to see in the next 5 minutes. Um, and so we set a shoot date of the day after Thanksgiving, which was November 26th, 2021, just a few months ago. And we assembled all the parts. The Muhammad School of Music chamber players were the orchestra. They are the orchestra. I mean, they literally learned the parts of the music. And we did costumes. We did props. We did, I mean, just the whole production. It was quite elaborate putting all this together. And then we did the shoot date, and we were there all day. I brought in a very special guest actress and dancer who goes by the artistic name Maya by name. And she came in as the lead actress in on the project. You're going to see her. But it was myself, Maya by name, the Muhammad School Music Chamber players, and we came together on November 26th to pull this off. The hairstylist, Mr. Stephen Daniels, who's my personal stylist, but he came on as the stylist for the project. Mr. Stephen is at the top of his industry. I mean, he travels all over the country doing trainings and workshops and presentations, and he's the personal stylist for people like Taraji Henson. And so I'm just honored that I get to see him in Buffalo, to take care of me, and that he came onto the project to do hair, makeup. The costumes were designed by another former performing arts colleague, Smyrna Mercedes, but her costume design company is called Mini Stingings. And so all the dresses that you're going to see in the production and the costumes of the men are designed by her. My youngest daughter, Aliyah Isabel, she did all of the jewelry that the ladies wore. So the jewelry that you're going to see was designed by Aliyah, Aliyah Isabel. And I'm trying to think of who else was a part of this project in such a special way. We have about 3 minutes. I'm going to end the live stream, and then you're going to click on, you're going to visit my website, henristar.com. There should be links in my bios and on the different posts and here on YouTube that you can go and click and watch the video live really in the next 3 minutes. But everyone that came on board for this project, I want to just thank you. After we filmed it, we went into the editing studio, myself and Brother Corey Green, and we took just so much time because I wanted every aspect of what's being shown and articulated to be a reflection of the divine power that I believe is in the verse, and now in the music and the sound of the music, and now in the visual display of the artistry that again, we're counting down the next 3 minutes. And so if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat box. If you visit the website, www.henristar.com, HENRI star, STAR, one word, henristar.com. You can, of course, view the video in the next couple minutes. You can order the book. You can download the entire album, Awaken, that the song is on. It's the 9th track of the album, Awaken. And there's a bonus track titled Behind the Stars, which is not on the album, but it is on my catalog. But again, I just want to thank everyone for being a part of this journey. I've been posting different clips on my social media from the live concert exclusive screening that we held a couple of weeks ago. I'm going to be posting a couple more outtakes and not only called bloopers, but just moments that we just some of the B-roll. Yes, Smyrna Mercedes that we all went to high school with. It was just a family affair, bringing all this together. And so we have about 1 minute to go. And the video will be live. It's probably counting down live right now on YouTube. I'm going to just click over here and see what it's saying. But please send me your comments and send me your thoughts. Send me your reactions. And, I'd love to be able to come and visit with you. If you're not in Buffalo, I'd love to be able to come visit with you. And share both music and share the life and the divinity of what we have to offer. So it's counting down now. Make sure you go to and we look forward to many great things coming up in the next few months. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum. Peace and blessings. seguía enamorado. Después de 200 años, o 2000 años, o 5 o 10 de tiempos inmemorables. Este tipo de amor, de amores trascendental, como una corriente eléctrica que es la fuente de la vida. Dice tiempos inmemorables, manifestándose ante por medio de distintas naves, desde distintos puntos en el espacio, y el tiempo, y el tiempo.